I am not teaching, I am publicly learning. A kind welcome to Learning for the Life in UK test part 138, the 20th century, and we're just answering the questions at the end of a chapter. We have a chapter already. While doing a leg injury prevention training, and if you participate in the leg injury prevention training, that's at your own risk. And we're talking here about the First and the Second World War and war. So the third question here is, we should understand the events of the Second World War. There's probably no one in the world who understands even the parts known of the Second World War. They mean what they have told us. That is again probably not so much. But we're having a few. The events, the events, that question, the first question was, it was not a question, what happened during the First World War? So we were not asking for what happened before, what was the cause or something like that, or how it ended, or what happens afterwards. Here we're asking for the events of the Second World War. That includes the beginning. So they're starting with that Adolf Hitler came in 1933 at the power in Germany, and that what words did they use and what did I add? They said that Hitler, he believed that the conditions imposed on Germany by the Allies after the First World War were unfair. That is right, it's just not, that is not the main cause for the Second World War. That was one of his talking points why he was voted for, but that has not so much to do with the Second World War. It has something to do that he wanted a second round of the World War, that he thought that Germany was not defeated in the First World War, that he was, now I'm taking way more than necessary, but that he had the opinion that Germany was not defeated in the First World War, and that Germany could have fought way more. They could not, they were defeated. But at least in very, very large amounts, in every effective forms. And he was telling the story that Germany could have won the First World War, but that just I don't know how it's called in English, that the main military compartment did just say to be ending the war, but the soldiers could have fought on, which is not the situation at the front as it was in 1980, in November 1918. But he was telling that, and the conditions imposed on Germany by the Allies, and that he wanted a second round. And I don't know why I came down to that point. He believed that the conditions imposed on Germany by the Allies after the First World War were unfair. Yes, he believed it, and that was one of the reasons why he was voted for. But it was also the mass unemployment in Germany, and that he said he had the solution for it. He also had someone who he could claim was fault for that, and he built nationalism, and he set about renegotiating treaties, building up arms, and testing Germany's military strength in nearby countries. Now I'm basically going through the whole article again. So he built the German military massively up. Germany put very much power into building up a military. It did not just happen that Germany had a strong military power. They put lots of force into military, lots of money, lots of effort over many years to build up an enormous military. That is why they were in the initial phases where they used the effect of surprise on the other countries, and also that they were smaller countries. Germany is a pretty big country in the center of Europe, and they were attacking Poland together with the Soviet Union, or they were annexing Austria. They had also the help of Italy, and that they were attacking Belgium, or Denmark annexing. And did I say Swiss state neutral? I said Swiss state neutral. There was fighting in Switzerland. The situation in Switzerland is more complex than just that they stayed neutral. There was fighting, I remember it. But we just, no, we should say the events of the Second World War. We can talk very, very, very longer. So, the British government wanted to avoid a war. So when Germany annexed, or how that would now be to explain, I think annex is the right name, Austria, or the Czechoslovakia, then Britain said, we don't want now to start war. They just hoped that Hitler would be satisfied with having more countries. But he kept going. He went after the next one, Poland. And then Britain and France wanted to stop him and declaring war on Germany. And when it got even bigger, so there were the main the Axis powers were mainly Germany, Italy, and Japan, or Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and the Empire of Japan. All three countries had major changes and are not the same countries anymore as they were during the Second World War. And then the Allies, the United Kingdom, France, Poland, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the Union of South Africa on the other side. And then in Britain, Winston Churchill became the Prime Minister and the war leader. There was the evacuation of Dunkirk, where British civilians got with the boats to Dunkirk and saved 300,000 British and French troops who were trapped. They couldn't retreat further, there was the ocean. And then Britain was basically alone fighting against Germany, and the Battle of Britain happened. And there the Germans tried to get the British defeated in the air. It wasn't successful. And there's the quote of Winston Churchill: over the Royal Air Force were the Hurricanes and Spitfire, the two mostly used airplane types of the Royal Air Force, fought against the Germans. And there's the quote of Winston Churchill: let's make it exactly, never in the field of human conflict was so much owned by so many to so few. And then the Blitz happened, and that was the German was, it's called the Blitz in Britain, oh, it seems so, was attacking by night and dropping bombs on many cities, and they want us to know which one. I just had said Coventry and East End on London, and the East End part of London. They were way more cities were affected. So that is basically what we had here. Then we have a little more that Britain was fighting also against British troops, against the Japanese empiristic, the Japanese troops. In Singapore fell, and then they occupied Burma. I still don't know if Burma or Singapore, I don't know that exactly. And that threatened India. Then Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. We will not come through with anything here. Let's look once at a map. I want to know if on that map, I said I had one, is Hawaii. I'm having here a world map. That is a world map. And I want to know if Hawaii is on it. And I think Hawaii is not on it, and this is not Pearl Harbor. So Hawaii would be either there or there. I think it would be here. Here, it is on it. Here's Hawaii. So you have the United States and there's Hawaii, and here the globe goes on. So Japan here is actually pretty close, just 5,000 kilometers or something, to Hawaii. And there was a naval base by the United States. Here is somewhere here is Hawaii. And here's Japan, and there the United States, and Japan was attacking there the Pearl Harbor, the Navy, and then the United States entered the war. Do we have Burma or something on it? I can't find it that fast. And the British troops fought also all over the world, that was the thing. And then Hitler attacked the Soviet Union. So the idea of that contract which the Soviet Union and Germany had made was that Germany did not have two fronts to fight at, but it did not have the front at the west against France, or at the Atlantic as they had occupied France, and not at the same time at the east against the Soviet Union. But now Hitler had broken that contract, and they had attacked the Soviet Union. They had gotten pretty far into the Soviet Union, but basically too far, and when the winter set in and Germany had very great losses, the Soviet Union had even greater ones, and the Soviet Union won basically this battle, and they were slowly advancing and overcoming 3-4 years after Berlin. And when the D-Day happened, that was on the 6th to 1944. In 1944, the Allied forces landed in the Normandy and started to liberate France, and then to push into Germany. And when they met in Berlin, basically the Soviet forces and the US forces, and that is not just randomly that they met in Berlin, it's just they were pushing from both sides. And why should Nazi Germany just defend just in the east or just in the west? They were defending on both sides basically with the same pressure, as much as so. but we were basically retreating on both sides in the same speed, so it's not a wonder that it happened basically in the middle of Germany where the two troops met. But it was a little more in the east, a bit more through the Allied forces, because they had come through Sicily and liberated Italy. It was somewhere written here, I think, too. And the war against Japan really ending with that. It's not so much about Britain. The United States dropped 2 atom bombs on Japan, on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and with that the Japanese saw that they had no chance against this new weapon, and they surrendered. And then we had, that is technically not so much part of the Second World War. Ernest Rutherford, he worked in Manchester and in Cambridge, and he was working on, he was a chemist, and he was working on splitting the atom. And some British scientists, which are not named here, were taking part in the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project was a militaristic weapon testing, basically, in the United States, but for atom bombs, where they were building atom bombs with splitting atoms, and a very powerful weapon, which is very deadly and a monster. So basically, that's what we're told. Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He became Prime Minister in 1940, and in his first speech to the House of Commons he said, "I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears and sweat." And after the evacuation of Dunkirk, he said, "We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender." And during the Battle of Britain, that was the air fight between the German Stukas and the British Spitfires and Hurricanes, never in the field of human conflict was so much owned by so many to so few. And he became an inspirational leader to the British people in the time of great hardships of the Second World War. And he got a state funeral, and he stayed in the Parliament until 1964. He was not really, I don't think they want us to remember, I mean, that if you can write that. You may be asked to identify famous quotes from speeches by people such as Churchill. Make sure you know who said what. Make sure you know the planes used in the Battle of Britain and which parts of the UK were most affected by the Blitz. But yet, just saying Coventry and East End of London and Spitfire and Hurricane. Okay, but I think we have now answered this question based on everything we had said. There on the right you can see some pilots running to the Royal Air Force, and on the left is Richard Churchill. Now we're having 3 minutes left for negative information training. And if you participate in it, it is such an honest, we're not going to do anything more, just negative intervention training. So if you go on, you can go on. We're bringing one leg up in this. No, we haven't even warmed up. So we're breathing in and out. And again in. And out. And again in. And out. In across the legs. And out. Now we're bringing one leg up. We don't have time to do a proper injury. We don't have time to warm up or anything. We're bringing one leg up. We're doing just some exercises which are going. And we're pressing our phone. Well, let's make something proper. We're bringing it to the outside. That's a good exercise. And we're breathing in. And out, we're bringing it back into the middle. And control down. And again, the leg up. We're breathing out and bringing it to the outside. And bring it into the middle. And control down. And we're bringing the other leg up. We're breathing in. We're breathing out and bringing it to the outside. We're breathing in. And out back into the middle. And control down. And no, we're not warmed up. We cannot do all this. We're bringing the leg up, right angle of the leg up, flexed foot. And now let's do some exercise. We're pressing, but not with too much force. Just with pressure. And we're opening. And we're closing again slowly. Let's do it 2 times. We're opening, not too much pressure, we're not probably hold up. And back into the middle. And control down. Now with the other leg up. Pressing a bit against the knee. And we're opening. And we're breathing in. and out. No, we don't have to breathe. Just keep out breathing. Opening again. And we're closing again. And we're breathing in and going down. And out. And breathing in. Out. Breathing in close breaks. And we're done with a very short, whatever, leg mobility training. I thank you very much and until next time.